everyone. I will be continuing our previous discussion that we had last meeting. Now, where was I? I was going to get to this part. I was going to get to this part. English has primary supremacy in the Philippine public domain, secondary dominance in regional languages. While also there's another country, it is known as Thailand. There's a public sphere. They also make use of national and social languages that have primary dominance together with English. And why is this a necessary thing, you wonder? Well, it says right here, while other foreign languages still do not have tertiary dominance. So, in a way, they use different languages more often and somehow strengthen it. The linguistic proxies of the Philippines and Thailand are comparable in meaning that they both have an indigenous national language, use the national language as the social language, English as the primary foreign language. Well, that's kind of similar, right? And now I shall tell you about the comparisons that I have found. In the Philippines, adult literacy is 93.6%, which is ranked 43rd. And in Thailand, for them, it's 93.51. Average years of schooling adults, 8.2 in the Philippines. In Thailand, it's 6.5, ranked 44th. Children out of school, primary, 1.47 million. And for Thailand, it's 243,883. Right, and then children out of school, primary per 1,000, 15.993. 15.99, which is 4 times more than Thailand. Because Thailand, it's 3.68. In colleges and universities, there's, in the Philippines, it's 1.24, ranked 62nd. In Thailand, it's 1.35%, ranked second, more than the Philippines. And for the government spending on education, it's 2.65% in the Philippines, whereas Thailand uses 5.79%. No, they do. It's more in Thailand, 5.79%. In high school, the enrollment rates in the Philippines is 97.51, whereas Thailand is 86.74. Then we proceed to literacy. In the Philippines, it's 95.9, ranked 56th. In Thailand, it's 96, ranked 54th. Primary teachers per 1,000, 4.74, ranked 67th. And then for Thailand, 5.26. Now we proceed to secondary education in the Philippines. It's ranked as four. It's it's 4, ranked 197. And then in Thailand, it's ranked 140th. So 50% more than Philippines. Then the pupil-teacher ratio, secondary in the Philippines is 34.81. In Thailand is 19.95. Primary teacher ratio. In the Philippines, it's 31.44. And then in Thailand, it's 15.99. So also there is a difference between their governments. The Philippines has a republic type of government, whereas Thailand does a constitutional monarchy. Then there is the league. They have a legal system, mixed legal system of civil, common, Islamic, and customary law in the Philippines. And in Thailand, there is a civil law system with common law influences. In the Philippines, the political pressure, it's for black and white movement, while Thailand does multicolor group. The way they do things in Thailand, they have been revising their things, or have updated their old implementations.
Yes, sniper. Sniper. Duh. Sniper. Why so funny though? Sniper.
Now we can talk about the 1995 population and housing consensus. Why it's important because of the people who are counted as the Filipinos, or the inhabitants that recognize the language, thusly maintaining its strength. What the 1995 population and housing consensus does is it provides for the people. Its goal is an effort to inventory, preserve, harmonize, and disseminate consensus microdata around the world. So it is to provide and help others. It is used to improve certain areas. These people that have supported them or helped funded Minnesota Population Center, National Statistical Offices, and then we have the major funding. It's provided by the U.S. National Science Foundation and Demographic and Behavioral Sciences branch of the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. Additional support is provided by University of Minnesota Office of the Vice President for Research, the Minnesota Population Center, is the Minnesota Population Center and Sun Microsystem. These are the type of houses they provide for the people. There is the dwelling, separate and independent households, so a house made for nuclear families. Then we have households. It's a bunch of people together, or family, or whatever, or whoever is living in there. It's people living in the same house, a number of them, to be precise. And then it also counts the individuals and the group quarters.
Ito, example, di ba ilagay nila? Kailangan mo na siya isang parang.
Well, we do recognize the Asian Economic Community for trading and investments and strengthening program plans. They engage with regional and global partners. They continue strongly supporting the trading system and actively participating in regional fora or stuff that happens in different parts of a country because it's regional and part of something. They continue to promote engagement with global and regional institutions. That's why it's important, because it's language planning, and the Asian Economic Community provides for that part. This and the EFA, Education for All. Their goals are to expand childhood care and education, achieve primary education, particularly for kids with poverty problems. They want to ensure equal access to learning and life skills for youth and adults, achieving 50% in levels of adult illiteracy by 2015, achieve gender equality, improve the quality of education, to ensure measurable listening outcomes for all, and funding and political will. The government, civils, and institutions and departments, they're the ones who help provide. In order to make a program, you need supporters that can help out with the program, the plan. And they also want to close the financial gap because there has been problems. They and target funding to meet the needs of the most disadvantaged, so no child is left behind. Now, when it said 19th century, century, when that happened, there was Thomasites that came. They're also known as teachers. They're called, they're Thomasites. There's 365 males, 165 females. They came July 23, 1901, 1902, and then spent $105,000 on the expedition. Then there was this person. His name is Monroe. This thing, it was created, Commission on Philippine Education, created in 1925, headed by Paul Monroe, who at the same time was the director of the International Institute of Teachers College, Columbia University. It was composed by a total of 23 education professionals, mostly from the US and some from the Philippines. Filipinos have also proven that they are in the par with average American students who score on science and mathematics. But when it comes to English, they have quite a bit of trouble with that part. Then this guy, George Count, a Yale professor and a member of commission, wrote on 1925. He said that the children outside the reach of schools performed generally low in subjects that relied on English, although the achievement in math and science was at par with average performance of American school children. Counts also adds that Filipino children of 1920s as handicapped because they were forced to learn things they weren't used to. Now, proceeding to what else happened there. They made schools, Philippine Normal School, Silliman University, Central Philippine University, Negros Oriental High School, St. Paul University, Dumaguete, Cebu Normal School. Then in 1915, Philamer. Then there's this Philamer Christian University. Then we have Iloilo Normal School in 1902, now known as West Visayas State University. Then we have Iloilo Normal School in 1902-1901. I think I said that already. University of Manila, 1914. Then we have Women's University. Then we have Far Eastern University. Schools were built in remote areas like Sulu, Mindanao, and the mountain provinces where attention was given to vocational and health practice. To be precise about the Thomasites, they came at June 1901, boarded Sheridan. August 1901, 600 teachers or Thomasites came. And then after that, ELE, or the modernization of education, had changed those ways. Those previous ways to help promote teaching, because it has been quite difficult back then. So now they want to tackle all of the problems there. They evaluate the problems, they evaluate what needs to be done to help improve the school environment for the learners. And that is important as well. It's education for all, after all. And now we have the BEP, the world's first systematic bilingual education experiments. Where was I? This happened on 1974, and it still has been the same thing we've been following, or has been later on updated. The policy on bilingual education 1987 thing. Now we after the creation of public education, it was given to the Americans. I mean, it was made by the Americans, my bad. Then it became important due to the fact that it's the medium of instruction or language of instruction. A new order happened. You all know what that is, the mother tongue thing. This was meant to help them surpass challenges they've once experienced. This was okay, so BEP in summary is a program where English is the language of instruction in science and mathematics, and Filipino, the rational language in all other subjects, been recognized as the earliest languages understood in bilingual education around the world. BEP was created in 1974, and since then it has been the broad framework of educational system in the country. Oh wait, I forgot to mention in in America, I forgot to add these details. In some cases, that students who excelled academically were sent studies and became experts in their desired fields, so they get to go to things they want to do or things they want to learn so that they can do. They were called scholars and pensionados because the government covered all their expenses. In return, they teach or work in government offices after they finish their studies. Many elementary and secondary schools from the Spanish era was recycled, and new ones were opened in cities and provinces, which among these were normal, vocational, agricultural, and business schools. Among the most important colleges during the United States were PH Normal School. And I've already mentioned the different names of different schools, yeah. And now we can proceed to Yes, and since 2009, BEP has been replaced by the new order from the Department of Education, promoting the introduction of mother tongue-based multilingual education. So, in short, they allow a third language like Hiligaynon, Bicol, because there has been ideas about teaching or promoting the mother tongue first. Because it could help get results, but this institutionalization of MTB, MLE, and BEP's politically entrenched assumption that only two languages can promote among Filipinos and can express their identity as a nation in Philippine education. English and Filipino, the national language. Well, not everyone can apply this. There are teachers who tend to speak in Tagalog mostly and make use of English less, and it would seem that English isn't used enough. The it's not white enough, because even with that said, the Philippines is kind of like simple to do. Like earlier, like what that guy said, counts. Students would find it difficult to understand different languages at the same time, being unfamiliar. Wait, let me go back up. Let me go back to what I've said before. Yes, Count also adds that Filipino children of 1920s as handicapped because they were forced to learn things they weren't used to. That applies to this right now. Because they aren't used to it, they're having problems with understanding English and trying to do it. Anyway, yeah, the mother tongue based language is a big trend in the Philippine education. On it was a trend across the department of, I mean, a trend across Southeast Asia and for several decades. Then on July 14, 2009, MTLE was institutionalized the Department of Education by Order Number 74. Okay, so Order Number 74 is, there's a long list of them. I will tell you. Number 1, the lessons and findings of various local initiatives and international studies in basic education have validated the superiority of the use of the learner's mother tongue or first language in improving learning outcomes and promoting education for all. So they wanted to find and look for different ways to improve that. Then we have the mother tongue based multilingual education, also referred to as MLE. It is the effective use of more than 2 languages for literacy and instruction. Henceforth, it shall be institutionalized as fundamental educational policy and program in this department and the whole stretch of formal education, including preschool and the alternative learning system. The local and international research consists with basic education sector reform agenda recommendations, affirms the benefit of notable empirical studies like the lingua franca project and Lubuan first language component show that first learners learn to read more quickly when in their first language. Second, pupils who have learned to read and write in their first language learn to speak, read, and write in a second language. And third language more quickly than those who are taught in a second language. Third language first, and third in terms of cognitive development and its effects in other academic areas. Pupils taught to read and write in their first language acquire such competencies more quickly. The study of Department of Education Region (5B) entitled Double Exposure in Mathematics A glimpse of mother tongue first has provided the local validation of fundamental observation that top performing countries in the trends in international mathematics and science studies TIMSS are those that teach and test students in science and math in their own languages. So, yeah, all regional directors and superintendents promote and encourage local participation in the following essential support systems of the MLE within the framework of school-based management SBM with the support of local government units. Then we have formulation of region-specific schemes, things that bring some sort of incentives or policy support in bringing about and developing MLE towards financial and instructional self-reliance and excellence. Then we provisions of orientational and training opportunities along with exposure to successful models of MLE that have been developed, the gradual integration of MLE in all subject areas and at all and that all the gradual integration of MLE in all subject areas and at all grade levels beginning in preschool and continuing by adding a grade level per year in the school improvement plans SIPs and district ALS program is likewise enjoined effective immediately. Now we have the utilization of maintenance and other operating expenses, school board funds, and other educational improvement funds is hereby authorized for the planning and implementation of MLE programs in the following sequence: priority advocacy work and community mobilization, development of a working orthography of the local language, MLE orientation and teachers training, developing and printing, distributing teachers, facilitators, guides, reading materials and instructional materials, development of assessment tools and evaluation and monitoring learning outcomes, and an MLE technical working group at the regional and divisional levels that shall be established to facilitate MLE planning, monitoring, and evaluation. During the first 3 years of implementation, the enclosed MLE bringing plan may be used for reference for both teaching and curriculum development, for making sure years adjustments may be based on monitoring and evaluation results. For all programs of alternative learning system, learners' first language shall be used as a primary medium, and thereafter, depending on the previous level of functional literacy and pedagogical requirements of accreditation, equivalency, the Bureau of Alternative Learning System shall determine to suitable second and third languages that will maximize the educational benefits and competencies of ALS clients. Enclosed is the fundamental requirement for a strong mother tongue based multilingual education. Provisions of orientation. And training opportunities along with exposure to successful models of MLE have been developed. The gradual integration of MLE in all subject areas and at all levels in the school improvement plans. District ALS program is likewise enjoined by effective immediately. So, in short, why it's important? It's because it brings together the language policies of the Philippines, and it helps fund it, and it helps cultivate it. And they get to see the trial and errors of these things they're doing. And now the gradual integration of all subject areas of MLE in all subject areas and at all grade levels, beginning in preschool and continuing by adding grade level per year in the school improvement plans. SIPS, or School Improvement Plans, and District ALS. The program is likewise joined effective immediately. The utilization of maintenance and the other operating expenses. School board funds this, and other education improvement funds is hereby authorized for the planning and implementation of MLE programs in the following sequence of priority: advocacy work and community mobilization, development of a working orthography of local language, MLE orientation and teachers training, developing and printing and distributing teachers, facilitators, guides, reading materials and others, and MLE working. Wait, where was I? Orientation and teachers training, developing and printing and distributing teachers, facilitators, guides, reading materials and other. An MLE technical working group at the regional division level shall be established to facilitate MLE planning, monitoring, evaluation during the first 3 years of implementation. The enclosed MLE bridging plan may be used for reference for both teaching and curriculum development. For the ensuing years, adjustments may be made based on monitoring and evaluation results for all learning programs of alternative alternative learning system. Learners' first language shall be used as a primary medium, and thereafter, depending upon the previous level of functional literacy and pedagogical requirements and accreditation and equivalency, the Bureau of Alternative Learning System (BALS) shall determine the suitable second and third languages that will maximize educational benefits and competencies of ALS clients, enclosed as fundamental requirements for a strong mother tongue-based education. This department, with the help of MLE specialists, shall incorporate an MLE certification process and retain the privilege of establishing MLE certification procedures in order to maintain quality MLE programs wherever they may be implemented. All orders, memoranda, issuances, rules, and regulations, or parts thereof inconsistent with provisions of this order are hereby rescinded, amended, or modified accordingly. Okay, so it's meant to affirm the language planning. It needs evaluation for the students. That's as students face problems we don't always see in the open. That's why this plan was made. It was made for the students. All these suggest that initial it also suggests in this area this area, the 1999, which revealed that the educational experiment was primary. 1 to 3 pupils taught in a local language performed higher than those taught in English, and the research by DepEd, which found that students taught in foreign studies, mathematics, in their mother tongues performed reasonably well. All these suggest that initial instruction in the first language of the learner enhances learning, results and reduces eventual duplication. So, just like that, I'll get to that part in a bit. Let's proceed. Oh man, fuck. I must have said fudge. Yeah, I said fudge. I said, oh, sorry about that. What the? Anyway, the decision to adopt MTP MLE by DepEd in Congress was focused on the results of recent so many there are benefits to that. There is the Lulubuang. It's actually pretty good from what I've read about. It's okay, like if you learn a language in your mother tongue, it says right here, then achievement would be higher than those who are taught in two languages. Because right. I mean, now let's get to the Lulubuang experiment. It's it was a response to the late Secretary Andrew Gonzales. Then Lulubuang is being used in all domains except the church. It have a better ability to speak in or have a better ability at what it's specifically made for. Teaches mother tongue first before immersion. What else happened in that experiment? Teachers had to learn to read and write their own language as only recent, and it's only recently been standardized into something. Yeah. It has been standardized. Their teachers. It is done by beginning each lesson with what is familiar to the learner related to his or her experiences, and building that to introduce new building on that to introduce his new content. Mastering mother tongue before others proves greater results. Teaching of all subjects except Filipino and English was done in the mother tongue. At a later point, teaching Filipino and English through the mother tongue as language of instruction was implemented. instruction was the testing done in 2008 found an approximate gain of 40% in educational outcomes. Test scores, several major questions present themselves in response to this finding. In a similar study being carried out in Cameroon, Walter and Trammell 2008 found average gains over 200% for grade 1 children being instructed in local language. In 2009, the reported gains were approximately 125% for grade 1 and 60% for grade 2. Gains were the greatest in reading and maths and less in mastery of the second language. A striking feature of Lu Buang research is the variation in teacher quality. The students of high-performing teachers outscored those of low-performing teachers by as much as 70%. A tentative A tentative emerging hypothesis is that the greatest effect size for instruction in early grades is to be realized in those contexts in which existing quality of educational delivery is the weakest. It needs something that can be understood, is the basic or layman's terms. Only further and broader research will confirm or disconfirm this hypothesis, motivated in the Lu Buang experiment in education. And now we proceed to so as I've explained before, it's it connects these two things, this area and this. It benefits. They achieve better literacy that way. Learning your first language boosts learning abilities so that there are less problems being faced. Just as the study suggests, or the experiment Lu Buang suggests, that it should be that way. So it did highlight everything that learning the first language before the others proved to be more effective than learning two at the same time. And now we have Jeep or job enabling English. Right. It's the Jeep laboratory is equipped with 40 units of students' PC terminal with headset, projector, local area network, teacher terminal, and a licensed software to automate teaching and learning process. It is a blended approach for both face-to-face and computer coded instruction system. Its course contains most topics for English proficiency, for practical use, and job-seeking communication skills. This shall excuse me. Help this helps people get their jobs. It improves the employability of colleges and universities by expanding and enhancing the English language training capabilities of colleges participating in projects. The objective is that all colleges, universities participating in Jeep project will produce graduates with English skills needed for productive employment in careers requiring reasonable proficiency in language. guess this plays a great role in because we need to practice English. And English is one of it's the official language, whereas Filipino or Tagalog is the national language. However, native speakerism comes to cause problems for this. Well, in what is native speakerism? It is a sort of ideology that teachers represent a Western culture, from which ideals both of the English language and English language teaching and there is something called the othering, or making people feel insecure. So, well, the most basic way to say it is stereotyping. In stereotyping, we have, they would say, lacking self-esteem, non-native speaker, docile, reluctant to challenge authority, easily dominated, uncritical and unthinking. Such descriptions represented imagined problematic generalized other to the unproblematic self of the native speaker. This native speakerism should be addressed because of the level of judging is sort of it's like labeling, and then it should be set aside, because if the meanings and realities of students in colleges from outside the English speaking a language should be understood by everyone. Don't try to make people feel down about themselves because they can't speak English. They can still learn it in their own effective way. This is important because we need to balance things, because without balance there would be chaos. the insufficient exposure to their mother tongue in the external climate. The literature indicates that most learners of language may learn in a minority language. Okay, so the problem with this is they don't have enough sources that help them learn in their own mother tongue, because it also requires literacy in the mother tongue, and there's not a lot of books done in the mother tongue. It's English and Tagalog, or Filipino. English is the official language and Filipino is the national language. But the mother tongue requires a ton of literacy, and that takes a lot of effort to understand completely. Let's say in Filipino majors. Filipino majors have adapted to this, but there's a problem with that also. They can learn the mother tongue, but somewhat at the same time.
Administrator mo, bakit hindi ka na naman administrator? Bakla, bakita talaga.
Filipino majors also find it difficult to enhance their learning in English, but if they only, like in my school, McWayne College, I have seen some who kind of don't feel comfortable in speaking in English because there is some mastery that lacks. But yeah. So in the Philippines, English is a mandatory subject. It's used for various transactions. Why those transactions connect? Transactions connect because the numbers. used in English. They're said in English, but can also be said in Tagalog or Filipino. And now it shows that it's difficult for students learning English and Filipino. In the Philippines, English language education is often confronted with low academic performance among Filipino students. Too many variables such as poverty, lack of facilities for schools. So I think it would be best if they did try the lingua franca project or experiment so that it boosts the results for improvement, because it has been showing no impressive improvement so far, because students still would ask, "Pwede Tagalog, ma'am?" in some sort of way, and they lose some of their self-esteem because of that. Yeah, they lose their self-esteem because of fears being corrected, but we need to be corrected so that because we're not perfect. They need to understand that anybody could get it wrong. So I think that's